Hi, and welcome to Health and Wealth Bulletin's weekly update. March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, so we wanted to go over a few risk factors as well as talk about the 3 different types of screening. Now overall, colorectal cancer rates have dropped in the U.S., but up to 130,000 people are diagnosed each year. And the rates for young folks are higher than older folks. If you were born in 1990 or later, you have twice the risk of colon cancer and 4 times the risk of rectal cancer. So what is colorectal cancer? Well, it typically begins as benign clumps called polyps. And polyps are small and not always cancerous. But even when they are, they don't often produce symptoms early on, and that can make the cancer harder to detect without screening. So that's where the importance of screening comes in. So colorectal cancer screening has received the highest grade from the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, and they recommend getting screened if you're between the ages of 50 and 75. Now, if you have a history of cancer in your family, you definitely want to get screened at age 50. Now, there are 3 types of screening. The first type of screening is fecal occult blood testing, and that requires testing stool samples for blood, which is a sign of colorectal cancer. It's not pretty, but it has fewer side effects than the other 2. Second type of screening is a sigmoidoscopy, and that looks for unusual growths in the rectum and lower colon. It's a little invasive, but not as invasive as a colonoscopy. A colonoscopy examines the entire rectum and colon, and growths can be removed or biopsied during this procedure, but it's slightly riskier than a sigmoidoscopy. Now, you can't completely prevent colorectal cancer, but there are things you can do to reduce your risk. The first is alcohol. Now, while alcohol does have some health benefits, a meta-analysis found that people who have 3.5 drinks per day had a 1.5 times risk of developing colorectal cancer compared with non-drinkers and light drinkers. Processed meats also increase your risk. Now, we've warned you about them before and how they affect inflammation. You don't need to cut them out entirely, but definitely eat them in moderation. Surprisingly, fruit juice also increases your risk. A 2012 study found that people who drink 3 or more glasses of fruit juice per day are 74% more likely to develop colorectal cancer. Now, there are lots of ways to decrease your risk. Coffee, curcumin, and green vegetables like broccoli to start. Also add high magnesium foods to your diet, including seeds, bran, spinach, and cocoa. Now, if you've already had polyps or have a family history of colorectal cancer, a daily low-dose aspirin can help. Most important, keep your weight in check. People who are overweight or obese have a higher risk of colorectal cancer, and it's especially true for people with large waistlines. A study from JAMA Oncology found middle-aged men who exercise regularly have a 44% lower risk of colorectal cancer. So if you have any of these risk factors, like a family history or between the ages of 50 and 75, definitely talk to your doctor about being screened. So that's it for this week. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.